Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. We are actually transmitting this live on YouTube, so I would like to welcome any visitors who are here to watch. We're all ready to go with this personnel meeting, which is obviously virtual, and we are now allowed to do that sort of thing by government and other people. So standard, we will start off with the agenda, and I will ask for any declarations of disposable pecuniary interest.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay. Apologies for absence.
None received, Mr. Chair.
Lovely. I think we're actually nearly a full house, aren't we?
Yes.
In this committee, we sort of decided early on that we would use the chat feature for hands up to if you want to say anything. So that makes life a lot easier if we do it that way. But I would ask that where possible you have your cameras on when you speak, because it's only fair to the public to see your lips move and not just hear your pearls of wisdom. So with that,
Chair,
yes,
if I go to my chat thing, it throws me out of the meeting. So I have a difficulty there. Sorry.
Well, I think for the benefit of the rest of us, Dennis, perhaps if you open your chat. No.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'll do my best anyway.
Mr. Chairman, in defence of Dennis, I have not got a chat icon, and I've also got a camera that's gone sulky and it's all grey and crossed out. If it's grey, you can't bring it into life. So excuse me if I seem to be butting in without. Can I use the hands up sign, the raise hand sign, which I have got, because I haven't got the chat set. I haven't got the chat thingy.
Okay, I'll try and keep
yeah, sorry about that.
Sure Tina will, but that comes up nicely. Yeah.
We can see your hand. Oh, it's taking it down again.
Oh,
Okay,
up and down. Now that's something you don't see very often in these virtual meetings. Everybody puts them up, and then they always forget to take them down. But that's great. So we'll move on. We only have one agenda item, which is a review of the budget, and I would ask the Deputy Town Clerk to lead on that, because he is the fount of all knowledge financial.
Chair, I'm not too sure of that, but anyway, I will try. Chair, what we've done is, as you know, when we put together the original budget that was approved by the various committees, when it came together, it created what meant that we'd have to put up our precept by double-digit figures, and I think the Finance Committee at its meeting wasn't happy to propose that budget to the council, so it referred the individual budgets back to the individual committees. What we've done as an SMT is we sat down and did a revision of the budgets to help the committees decide on what to do and what to change. So in respect of personnel, we looked at our income. There's very little, in fact, we haven't proposed any changes. So if you have a look at the slide that's showing, you'll see that the personnel administration line, income line, is unchanged. In respect of expenditure, it's more difficult to cut the personnel expenditure budget because that's where a lot of the fixed costs of running the town council lie in. So what we did is we haven't changed the major budget, which is the salaries budget. We made a minor reduction in our waste management budget. And what we did is we put a kind of globular savings amount right at the end of the budget, and I'll show you that figure now. Right at the bottom there, you'll see it on the slide that's showing that there's a saving of 5626. And what we try to do is think, well, we should be able to save money in certain areas. So if we just put one globular figure there as a reduction, the management team, as it goes through the year, will need to just look at how that we can do some certain cost reductions. We have got new contracts in terms of utilities, but it's very difficult to see what the impact of that is. And we're hoping that there's going to be a change in the rates. NARC have sent out something quite recently about the toilets being exempt from rates, etc. But what we've done to be prudent is we actually haven't banked on that because they may or may not come. So when you have a look at the expenditures, like I said, there's very little change that we propose at the personnel for the simple reason that they are fixed costs and they're unlikely. It's quite difficult to change contracts and those fixed costs. If I can stop there and revert back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alan. One of the things, I mean, yes, you put it out there and we can all see at a glance where we're coming from. One of the things that I really do want to ask and make sure that we can try and get across is that these are really, really, really strange times. There are so many factors that may not change. We really are in a position where normally we would know the answer to most of the questions and where we were going to go, and that's been taken away from us with COVID. So my question is, are we in a position that this is not set in stone? It will come up quarterly at least, to see if we can change things and try and look after, you know, the people of the town and not charge them for things that they don't need, but really keep on top of this, because normally we have a budget meeting now, set the budget, and it's then all looked at through the different committees as and when there's a problem. With this, because we haven't got all the information, can we look at it on a regular basis?
Chair, what we've proposed and what we've discussed with the other committees is that we intend to have quarterly budget review meetings. And the reason for doing that is if the impact of the pandemic, you know, lessens earlier than we expected it to, we'd be in a position to increase expenditure or reinstate some of the expenditures that we've had to reduce. So we are confident that our accounting systems are robust enough, we keep them up to date. So every quarter we will come back to each of the committees and give a report on where they are in terms of their income. And if overall we've done better than we've expected as a council, some of the spending priorities could be reinstated. I think that the point that the Chair of Finance has made is that we're not, you know, there's not permanent reductions of expenditure. It's rather to look at it as deferment of expenditure. And that's really the kind of attitude that we've tried to do when we've done this revised budget.
That's absolutely wonderful. That's where I wanted to come from. So rest of the committee, from what you've heard and seen there, do you have any questions on how we're doing this? I have a hand up from Councillor Brindle.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm absolutely on side with everything that's been said so far. The income's unchanged. The expenditure is mostly fixed costs, which are difficult to change. I think we all agree with that. And we're looking at quarterly reviews. Thanks for underlining that, Roy. That's absolutely wise. Just one small suggestion. I wonder whether we could have looked at a small saving on training. At the moment, I think we've got 4.5k, have we? Is that right? Yes, it is. So is it about the second or third line on the current screen? So if indeed we need to be doubly safe and make at least the savings that's being proposed by the SMT re-proposed budget, then I wonder whether that's an area where we could perhaps consider, say, another £1,000 just to be on the safe side. Thanks.
Thank you. Alan, you would have reason for not looking at that, or?
I think, again, this is probably one of the areas where you could defer expenditure. If the committee is happy to pursue that, I have no objections or concerns.
I must admit, I get into two sort of positions from here. my optimistic hat says that we have made savings, and we have these as standard fixed costs, and if COVID gets better, then we will be expanding again. My other hat says COVID will get worse, and that would be quite nice to have somewhere to put your hand and say, well, hang on, we have got another little saving that we can use. So whether we put it in now or just make sure that that's one of the items that definitely comes up at the quarterly review. How do the members feel about that? I've got Jenny with her hand up, and then Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll go to the savings, the waste disposal costs, the 25% reduction, cutting back on additional cleaning. Is that for the reduction in the cleaning of the toilets, the public lavatories, please?
Would you like me to comment?
Yes, please, Alan, if you would.
In terms of that, these costs are mainly in respect of the skips that we hire. We do a fair amount of clearing, and when we looked at the budget, that was one of the issues that we could possibly defer. So every time we empty a skip, which we keep at the cemetery, and then all the allotments functions, everyone else uses it, it's really just to have a look at that and see if we can reduce in that particular area.
Oh, right, so it's clearing, not cleaning, yeah?
Correct.
Okay, right, thank you.
Mike, you had your hand up.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yes, thank you to both you and to Alan for the comments on training. I'm happy to accept that we are making the cut that's being requested of us, and that this one can simply be noted in the minutes or brought up at the next quarterly meeting, as you suggested. So we've just established that it's an area that we can look at if things should be worse than we fear. As you rightly say, what we're really looking for is hopefully improvements so that we can begin to regain some of the lost ground. So thanks for accepting that as a valid future point if things go badly.
Thank you. I must admit, this is more for the town clerk than Alan, really. I was looking at the lines 513032 and 34, and just wondering whether or not we could perhaps buy some coats for the staff and go back to candles.
Well, if you're talking about some of my staff, that would possibly cost more in coats and jumpers than we pay in electricity.
That's not included.
Go on, tell us names.
Well, I mean, basically, really, I mean, I don't know anybody else that wants to come in. We are one of those committees where, we have managed to do, what we set out to do. We had very little that we could move with. I don't know whether the clerk would like to say anything else as to anywhere else that she felt we could have a little look at, and explain where we were saving any other monies where on these other positions. So would you like to just have a few words, Town Clerk?
I actually think this is a pretty robust budget. I think that we've tried to be very mindful of that there needed to be reductions, and probably the one that affects the staff the most is that we are, that there's a salary saving against the recent departure of the out officer. So, we, and that, well, that's currently paying for the toilets. So we are on reduced capacity, and that is something that in the future, obviously, we would want to resume. But it seemed a prudent move when projects were being temporarily delayed. It seemed like a a good way of actually filling the void, because if the project and the work wasn't there, then potentially we could run without that person. But obviously, as soon as the revisions come through and expenditure starts again and projects restart, then we would need to recruit as a priority in order to be able to fulfil those requirements. We spent a lot of time going through, but as people say, it's our costs tend to be what it says on the tin, and so it's quite difficult. I mean, it may well be that with the new utilities, we find that there's a saving in there. In fact, one of our meetings this week is we've started work on the carbon footprint calculator. So that's actually letting us go back over several years. So that may help us moving forward to look at areas that we can reduce cost as well, but potentially not for next year. So I think we haven't left ourselves short in worst case scenarios. I think it's manageable. I think we'll be able to deliver within it. But obviously, I think we will all welcome an increase in expenditure when that opportunity arises.
Thank you. That's a very good overall summary of where we are. I've got Jen Hollis with her hand up and Brenda. Jen first.
Thank you. My favourite one that I normally go to on finance, and that is the bad debts written off. I mean, we've got quite a bit there, and we all understand where they've come from. Really, maybe we should start looking at these debts that are being written off, that they should be actually recouped to the town for projects, etc. That was the one that I'm more concerned about. And the other one is the rent paid. That seems to be, we've got it for 2019, 2020, but not 2020, 21. So there's gaps there. So are we expecting rent paid, or are we not expecting any rents over the next term? Thank you.
I think the rent paid is what we pay out, isn't it? Isn't that to do with the fact we're in the Carnegie now as opposed to King's House? But I'm
Yes,
not
it
sure.
is.
That's the way I read that. That
Right,
is,
thank you.
Yeah, it's the other way round, because
Right,
that's,
okay, thank you.
all right. And Brenda.
Yeah, I know we've got a savings on staff costs, obviously, and that's going over to the cleaning. There must be a pension saving as well, because it was a higher salary, so there must be a savings in the pension as well. But what I don't want to go too long where we've got staff trying to do, because all of a sudden everything's opening up and we want to do the projects and everything else, and then actually what we're doing is we're stressing our staff out, because you start to stress your staff and in the end they say, it's not worth it, I'm leaving. So we'll be in a worse predicament. So I think it's something that we really need to keep an eye on. At the present moment, they can plod along because there's not much going on. There's just the day-to-days. But as soon as you start opening up, that will start putting pressure on them. And I think we need to be aware of that and to keep an eye on it. Because, we can sit at home, and I'll just take one officer, for example. He's been given extra duties, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, but it's your job to do this as well. Actually, he can't manage it. I just think we need to be aware of this and keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Can I come back on that? One, the on costs are already included in the figures, so that's already included within there. Secondly, I would say that we've got an awful lot of work on at the moment, as opposed to it's quite quiet, to be honest, because we're still managing all the projects and we're still moving forward with all the projects that were there previously. We will monitor the staff, and I have said at all times that where we are at the moment is only sustainable as a temporary fix. What we need the most is the person who will be managing the health and safety administration, because that's the part of the job that is now vacant. That is hugely important on a statutory front to the council. And as soon as we are able, that will be what I want to stand up first, because of the implication on the council of us not having that person. That is a job that needs to stay as one job and is too big to pass on to somebody else on top of their other work for anything other than a very short space of time. So I will be recruiting for that as soon as possible.
Yeah. Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks very much, Roy. I really wanted to confirm what's been said as strongly as possible. I think I'm just really supporting what Brenda said. It's one thing for the town clerk to say we need more staff. That's expected of town clerks and leaders of the staff. It's really important that the councillors say the same thing. We accept that we have lost a senior member, experienced member of staff, and it's not reasonable to expect the existing staff to go on carrying that extra burden indefinitely. So just well done, Brenda, for raising that issue. I think we've got to keep it absolutely clear, near the top of the agenda all the time. When can we recruit? And the particular issue that Tina's mentioned on, which is health and safety, is clearly one that we really cannot avoid. So I'm just saying, let's not in any way lose that. We should be looking at that as soon as possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. I must admit, I am really pleased with the way that the members are speaking on these issues. My biggest concern has been all the time that budgetary is one thing, but we on this committee are really here to make sure that our staff are looked after as well as they can be looked after. And I was going to put forward as a proposal, and by the sound of what's being said, I'm more hopeful of you all agreeing. It's all very well, we've actually got to vote on the fact of, do we put this proposal forward to full council, which I am quite happy to do with the expertise and what we have heard, but I would also like to add to that proposal that all committees, when looking and when we are discussing, take into account the well-being of our staff. We are down to 18. We lost a very large member of our staff in as much as she was the contact point for most of the projects and things that were happening. And when the council is doing these things, they must take our staff into consideration and not just think, oh, it's budgetary. You know, there are consequences to passing budgetary things. And from this committee, I would like that added to our proposal to full council, that yes, we are prepared to do this 3% cut. We understand what is happening, but we want all the council members to realise the consequences on our staff. How do you feel about that?
I would second that proposal, Mr. Chairman. It's very good and you worded it very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, just to say I totally agree. And if you hadn't had a good second, I'd have agreed, I'd have volunteered myself. I hope we'll be unanimous. That would be great.
Thank you. Basically, I've got no more hands up. I think that's basically all we can do, is to put forward that proposal to full council. So I'm looking for agreement from everybody.
I propose that, Mr. Chairman. Or are you proposing it? I don't know, but
Well, as I don't mind. I mean, I'll propose it.
okay, I'll second it.
Right. So
Agree.
Have I got to go in hands up?
Basically, I've just asked anybody who doesn't agree to make it known.
I think we may have a unanimous decision there.
I was about to say that's one of the few times on council I'm going to get away with silence is golden. I would like to thank all the members for coming and for the support that they're showing for the staff. That's the biggest thing. It's great that we are all of the same mind, and hopefully now this vaccine thing is on the horizon, we will be having a quarterly meeting that says spend, and we'll get back to promoting the town as we were before. So thank you, everybody.